The sun was hotter than itself, and I had nothing better to do than lay on the red leather sofa. So bored, my mind whispers. I hear the door to the flat unlock, my girlfriend coming home from work. I hear the door close, the keys chucked into a bowl and a backpack set down onto the floor. She enters the living room. A film of stress coats her face. She shoots a look to the piled up washing up, then looks at me. Would it be nice not to come home to all that, she says, before moving over to fumble in the kitchen. And why don't you have a window open? I say nothing. She opens the window in the kitchen. A small gust of air ripples the sweat droplets on my forehead. I'm sweating quite a bit. My loose pyjamas were starting to soak. The air from outside might help slow that process. I'm going to need you to do that washing. There's still a few things I need to pack for my trip. She's referring to the suitcase that sits in the corner of the room. She's packing light for a yoga retreat to Turkey. Still, it's more than what I would take. She leaves the room to find things for her cases. I'm staring at myself in the reflection of the switched off telly. I can only make out half of my features because the telly isn't quite level with my body. The floor near me is covered in used tissues. I have a summer cold. My nose begins to drip, so I swipe down and pick up the nearest tissue. I place it to my nose and blow hard and rub harder. The skin underneath my nose is as red as the sofa. Still, these tissues have a balm on them, apparently to make them more comfy. I let the tissue drop to the floor. After a while, my girlfriend comes back with another bag and adds it to the collection. Listen, I'm going in a minute. Take care of Walter for me. Make sure he's fed around 6 o'clock every day. If his eye plays up again, please take him to the vet's. Stock the fridge up for when I'm back. Walter refers to the snowy white rabbit we keep in another corner. She goes to the kitchen. The kitchen and living room are connected. That's how I can see what she's doing. She grabs her friend's flask from a cupboard and goes to the sink to fill it. Her face scrunches to the sight of the dirty dishes left. About 3 or 4 nights of food and drink stains the plates and pots and glasses that await to be cleaned. Can you please wash these dishes? They're disgusting. She plonks the bottle of water in a bag and loads her back with them. She moves over to me and bends down for a kiss goodbye. Fucking hell, your breath. I'm not kissing you. See you in a week. And with that, she walks out the living room door, acquires her keys, and leaves the flat. I sniff, my eyes still fixed on the telly. It's very hot. There's nothing to do. I rearrange my legs slightly. I sniff. I graze my teeth atop my bottom lip. I feel the crust of a dry mouth. There's nothing to do. Walter shuffles and begins to drink from his water bottle. It's loud and goes on forever. The sound of traffic on a busy road enters periodically through the open window. I move my hand atop my belly. I sniff. There's nothing to do. I close my eyes. When I wake up, it's dark outside. The day had gone and I was full of piss. Yet I did not move. Somewhere between the pains of holding a piss, I was hungry. Behind my head were crisps. I start to move my arm towards them. The effort is mountainous, like trying to push a boulder uphill using just the tip of the little finger's fingernail. I find the crisps. I use all my strength to pry open the packet and eat. Each crisp weighs a ton. Moving my jaw to crush them is a slow, arduous process. After 2 crisps, I'd had enough. Not enough to satisfy my hunger, but just had enough of the task. I let the crisps fall to the floor, spilling onto a tiny rug. My pyjama bottoms begin to fill with warm piss. The faint sound of urine droplets slipping on leather and hitting laminated flooring was the last thing I heard before slipping into sleep. My body clock wants to tell me that about 5 days had passed. And I believe it. There are all kinds of bad smells emitting from the flat now. I think the food left on the dishes next to the sink had grown a civilization. I could see a swarm of flies in the kitchen, not as many as the ones near my lower region. I adjusted my body slightly and took note of every sensation for a split second. I felt a crook in my neck, probably because it was unevenly rested on the arm of the sofa. I felt my bloated tummy getting harder from whatever was happening inside. But what was most overpowering was the smell coming from my decrepit bum. First, I felt a swampy wetness. Defecation. However, it wasn't all wet. I could feel a crust. The crusty remnants of a shit I did 2 days ago chiselled away. Old mixing with new. Moving slightly must have dislodged the smell. It rose to my face, causing me to wince. It could have knocked me out, if I could be bothered. I blinked fast, fanning away what stench clouds I could with my eyelashes. It didn't work. Oh well. And my summer cold had gotten worse. After a few more day and night cycles, I could really feel the clog in the recesses of my nose. Mucus seemed to be flowing from the corners of my mouth now, as well as my nose. I could feel a film of mucus on my teeth. Each breath would blow a rancid odour into my nose. I was thirsty, I think. The fridge that contained cold cola was 1,000,000 miles away. So I outstretched my bottom lip to form a cup. I blew my nose hard. A thick, viscous stream of snot filled my cupped lip. I swirled the mixture in my mouth like a mouthwash. I tasted salt and iron. I swallowed it down. Sometimes I bothered to focus and attune my senses to my surroundings. When I did this, I heard a most unusual sound. A small screaming, as if an animal was trapped in a spiky snare. "Hello, Walter," I slurred in my head. That's when it clicked. I remembered the day that passed by a bit ago, where Walter ran out of water in his bottle. The sound of him drinking was annoying enough, but to hear tiny rabbit lips desperately suckle on an empty bottle was even worse. After a bit, I remember hearing him thumping and darting around his hutch. On rare occasions, I remember darting my eyes over to him. I couldn't see the hutch well, but I wasn't going to apply any effort to make it fully visible. My conclusion of this observation? Walter was probably as hungry and thirsty as I was. My body clock announces that at least a week had passed. My hunger was actually unignorably strong. I remembered I had arms and flopped them to the floor, scavenging those crisps I'd neglected some days ago. I found one. My pruned fingers felt dust and rabbit fur upon its surface. Ah well. Using all my might, I plonked it into my mouth. I couldn't begin to process the taste before my arm was searching for another snack. It didn't find a crisp and settled for a tissue instead. My arm craned it towards my mouth, and my eyes studied it. Black bogies and blood was the motif. It passed the test and entered my mouth. I didn't chew. I couldn't be asked. I allowed my putrid saliva to decompose it. Just hoped for the best. Hoped that the tissue material would eventually fall down my throat. For to swallow exhumed as much strength as orchestrating another world war. If you could live off boredom, I'd be immortal. My body felt fused to leather and unimaginable filth. I was furniture. I was dry. I was the stillest body alive. Stiller than dead. Bacteria was confused about my body. The living room had only one thing left living in it, and the only thing living in it was too bored to die. The only thing that seemed to tick was my body clock, which eventually blurted a small alarm inside me. I twitched. Aches ate my body. So many bones clicking at once. I swooped my grey arm into the void and somehow found a new object. When my hand came back, it was holding the telly remote. My sludge-like finger poured over the buttons until it found the power one. I sploshed it. The telly was born. My eyes fried over the electronic beam of the morning news programme. I shutterstocked my eyes until a semblance of vision emerged. Had to retune my hearing to make anything out. The news programme was live at some conference. Some other bulletins were scrolling along the bottom of the screen. Something about a woman putting a badger in a bin. Something about a new diet pill. Something about a crashed plane on its way to Turkey. Something else and some other thing. A skinny man in a suit stood behind a stand. We are utterly thrilled to announce that Airplane Mode Month will be coming to an end in less than 5 minutes. This national participatory experiment has yielded tremendous results, and after we switch on again, we are confident the nation will also be more switched on after this much-needed respite. Join me now as we count down. I didn't. I couldn't speak. I reckon words would have torn my throat apart. Instead, I cast my hand into the void one last time until it found something volcanically hot. My phone. The charger cable pinged away. My mind was on third-party autopilot. I reanimated my phone and held it foregrounded against the counting down skinny man. He counted down to 0. An off-screen rapturous applause. 4G replaced the cross in the corner of the phone. I saw. Finally.